So yeah, we're studying the Haggadah of Pesah, and let me see, what page is the Haggadah? I know it's in the Siddur. 87. Okay, page 87 in the Siddur is the Haggadah of Pesach, and the Haggadah we hold on a second. So open up to page.
98.
Let's see what page. Yeah, 103. 103. So yeah, so the Kiddush, you understand the Kiddush. I discussed it already in the class on Shabbat, how we do the Kiddush, and Borei Meorei Ha'esh, because it's going to be a combination of Kiddush and Havdalah, right? But really the Haggadah, it looks like it starts on page 103. It's actually not page 103. Page 103 is Halach Ma'anya. I'll explain what that is in a moment. But the Haggadah formally starts on page 104, Manishtana. So what is Halach Ma'anya? What do you see? There's something different about Halach Ma'anya. There's something different about Halach Ma'anya relative to the other portions of Haggadah. Who can tell me what's different about it?
Aramaic.
Ah, very good. Yeah, that's correct. It's an Aramaic. The Haggadah, Manishtana, is in Hebrew. Abadi Mayinu is in Hebrew. Ma'aseh B'Rabbi Eliezer is in Hebrew. But this is in Aramaic. Why? Do you know why? Do you have that reason? If you know, there's a reason why it's in Aramaic.
It's probably added later on.
All right, but what is it? Why is it in Aramaic? Let's even say it was added later. Why is it in Aramaic?
I was just assuming that was their language.
It was a language, correct.
So maybe so that most people would understand it.
But why? Well, we don't want them to understand the Haggadah, but this we want them to understand. No, by the way, but what you're saying is actually correct. I'm not in any way putting it down. I just want to sharpen the point. That's why I'm being like a little more cross-examination. And where were you last night at 10 o'clock? Tell me. All right. All right. So no, I'll explain what this is about. Gentlemen, good evening. Get us Siddur, we're at page 103. The idea is, because this is an invitation. This isn't the Haggadah. In the Halach Ma'anya, we are inviting people to join us for the meal. Now, if you're going to invite people to join us for the meal, what language is that for you?
Your local language.
The language they speak in, right? So you understand why it's in Aramaic. By the way, in the days of Beit Sheni, everybody says the Babylonian Talmud was written in Aramaic because it was in Babylonia. The Jerusalem Talmud was written in Aramaic also because that's the language they used to speak. They did not speak Hebrew, they spoke Aramaic, right? But in Babylonia they spoke Aramaic. In Judea, Samaria, the kingdom of Judah, they spoke Aramaic. It was a different dialect of Aramaic, but it was Aramaic. So if you're now inviting people over, you're saying, listen, I want to invite everybody over to the Haggadah. We're inviting, you have to invite them in the language that they understand. And it's not, so that's why it's in Aramaic, Halach Ma'anya. And furthermore, how are you inviting the Aniyim? What are you doing? So what you're doing is as follows. You're starting with the Masah. You're holding the Masah. And the Masah is called what? Lechem Oni. The blood. Beruchim Abayim. You said you voted no. You said no. All right. All right, no problem. Happy to see you. Happy to see you. Okay. So the Masah is called Lechem Oni. So Lechem Oni, one of the meanings of Lechem Oni is a bread that a poor person eats, right? Because the idea of being a slave in Egypt was that you don't have a big lunch break. You don't have time to sit down and have a nice meal followed by siesta and you have a 2-hour lunch. There was nothing like that. Anybody ever go to Spain? You see what Spain is like, Madrid, right? You were you there during siesta time? Oh, you should have seen it. So Madrid. So you see, during lunchtime, around 12 o'clock, the restaurants fill up, everything jam-packed, cafes, everything is full. That's from 12 to 1:30. Around 2 o'clock, the streets are empty. They're all home sleeping, okay? So now, Mitzrayim was the opposite of siesta time in Madrid. Oh, have you been there also? You've seen that also? Or?
Yeah, in Spain, yes.
In Spain, right? Exactly. It was crazy.
Go to the shops, go home, have lunch, and come back.
Where is that?
Italy, Damascus, in Syria.
Oh, is that right? Also Damascus.
All the stores were closed.
Yeah.
And the men would go home, have lunch, and come back.
Interesting. So that's yeah. So that's probably European. So Egypt was the opposite. Egypt was a place where if you were a slave, you didn't even have time to bake bread, right? So what would you eat? You don't have time to let the dough rise. You're a slave, so you just mix the flour with the water, boom, put it in the oven. You eat masa. So when you invite the anim over, what are you gonna do? You might be embarrassed. You might feel a sense of inferiority. No. Kehalach manya. You see this bread of the poor people. You show it. All of our parents, we used to eat this bread, right? So you have nothing to be embarrassed about. Anybody who's hungry, come and join us for the meal, right? Kafin means a person who's hungry. Anybody who needs a place to sit down and stop, welcome, enter the house. You understand? So that's why you start the Haggadah in Aramaic, because it's an invitation to the people who might not have food. So today we do we collect money for the aniyim so we can buy the masot. But in the olden generations, they would actually invite them over to the house, and the aniyim would sit down in the house and eat the meal with everybody else. That was the custom. I remember seeing my grandparents. Alayhim shalom. That was very prevalent. There was always aniyim in the house, sitting down, eating. And my maternal grandparents, my father says also, his parents in Buenos Aires, it was a custom to always have aniyim in the house. So this halachmanya was very real. It wasn't just like a nice story, whatever. They really used to invite the aniyim over, and they would say it in the language of the aniyim, and they would show them the masa, and they'd say, you see this masa, we're all the descendants of the poor people who ate this masa. So please join us. We're all brothers. We all feel a sense of unity. Nobody's better than anybody else. Okay, so that's halachmanya. Now I want to, any questions? All right. And now I want to take you through the structure of the Haggadah. Let's see if I can figure this out. Let's see if we can do it together. What number repeats itself in the Haggadah over and over again?
What?
What number? There's a number that repeats itself in the Haggadah over and over again.
7?
The number 4. Yeah, number 4. Right? Mani Shtana, how many questions do you have? You have 4 questions. You have the Keneged al Banim Diberat Torah, the 4 children, the 4 types of children. So the truth is the Haggadah is divided into 4 parts. And I want to show you what the 4 parts of the Haggadah are. And then I'll take you through each one of the subparts and I'll show you how it works, okay? So I want to give you like a blueprint so you understand how the Haggadah works. Once you understand how the Haggadah works, it's much easier to navigate through it. So there's 4 parts to the Haggadah, and each part has the following pattern. It starts with a question. Part 1 starts with a question, part 2 starts with a question, part 3 starts with a question. Okay. After the question, it goes to genut. It says something a little embarrassing, right? Something unbecoming. Genut. So it goes to genut. And then the 3rd subpart, in each one of the 4 parts, it has shevach, a praise to God. That's it. That's the Haggadah. I just gave you the entire blueprint for the Haggadah. My son Joey brought this to my attention. There's a rabbi in Israel, Rabbi Limon. I don't remember his first name, but he mentioned he studied the book of Rabbi Limon. I like saying things in the name of the people who I learned it from. So my son read that book, brought it to my attention, and that's why I'm teaching it to you now. So let's look at the question number 1. The first question is, at the beginning of the Haggadah is, Mani Shana Halayla Ze Mikolelot, page 104. That's questions. Yeah? Mm-hmm. All right, so you see that. Then, after that, you have Genut. What's the Genut? Avadim Haynu Necholav Mitzrayim. We were slaves in Egypt. Like a little, embarrassing, right? We were slaves. And then, what's the 3rd part? We said Shevach. What's the Shevach? Page 105 at the bottom of the page. See if you see it. Baruch Makom Baruch Hu. We're praising God. You see that? So that's the first part of the Haggadah. Question, Genut, Shevach. You ready for part 2? Mm-hmm. All right. So part 2, question. Let's see, page 106, top of the page. The question, what does he ask? Right? He asked the question. I thought, okay. The Genut, go to the bottom of the same page. You see that? Genut, right? Our forefathers were idolaters, right? And then you have the Shevach. What's the Shevach? Baruch, Shomer Abtachato Yisrael, Baruch Hu, right? And Vehi She'amda L'Avotenu Velanu, right? So that's the Shevach. So that's part 2. So now you see part 2? All right. Let's look at part 3. Right. Seul Mad. Ma bikesh Lavan ha'arami la'asot Yaakov Avinu? Right? Think about the following question. Who was worse? Lavan ha'arami or Paro? Right? Think about that. So that's the beginning of part 3. And then we have the Genut. What's the Genut? Vayareu otanu hamisrim vay'anunu, page 109. Vayareu otanu hamisrim vay'anunu vaytenu alenu avodah kasha. So that's the Genut. And where's the Shevach? The Shevach is page 111. I'm sorry. No. My mistake. I'm sorry. The Shevach is Dayenu. Kama ma'alot tovot lamakom alenu. We praise God and we list all the miracles and all the beautiful things that God did with us. Ilu asiyanu memistam v'lo shefatim dayenu. Ilu asavay shefatim v'lo Elohem dayenu. That's the end of the third part. Comes part number 4. Part number what?
What page is that?
Dayenu is page 114. Okay. Now, part number 4 is starts with Rabban Gamliel Haya Omer. Anybody who didn't say these 3 things on Pesach, and then we have 3 questions. Page 117. This is part number 4. So, page 117. Why do we eat matzah? That's one question. Why do we eat matzah? Maror, I'm sorry. Page 116, I forgot. Pesach. Why the Korban Pesach, right? So we have those questions. Then we have Genut. Where's the Genut? First, where is the Genut? In Maror. By Mareru et chayehem ba'avodah kasha. Right? No. The Genut means something bad happened to us, and it's in the Maror. By Mareru et chayehem ba'avodah kasha. They embittered our lives. We were slaves. And then we have the Sheva, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Adonai, Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, right? So those are the 4 parts of the Haggadah. Each one part starts with a question. It goes to Genut, and then it goes to Sheva. Okay, very simple. It's really easy to kind of find yourself when you get that. So that's the structure of the Haggadah. Now that you know the structure, I want to ask a question, and this is my own thinking because I was thinking about this. So you have 4 parts, and each part starts with questions. In fact, the Haggadah, who's asking the question? The children. So we say the children should ask a question. Kind of strange. Isn't it kind of strange? I mean, it's like, this is like the most important, one of the most important nights of the year for the Jewish people. And maybe it's the only night of the year where we're all sitting down together discussing a very important topic, right? The history of the Jewish people in terms of what happened to us in Egypt and how we left Egypt, right? So that's Pesach. That's a really important thing. Why do we involve the children so much? All right. And we have question, right? Why the question? And also Chachama hu omer, Rashama hu omer. What's the question that the Chacham asks? What does the Rasha ask? What does the Tam say? And finally, she'enu yodeh lishol. A person doesn't know how to ask a question. Make him ask a question. Who cares? You understand my question? Right. I think it has to do, and this is just my own thinking, I think it has to do with the Jewish concept of freedom. So, you're never really free unless you're given the right to evaluate reality independently. Meaning, if I come and tell you, you must believe this, you must think this, you must understand this concept, right? Maybe I'm telling the truth, right? Hopefully I am. But as a person who has a mind, the Torah is saying, you know what freedom is? Freedom is the right of a child to go to his parent and say, I don't understand this. Explain this to me. Even the Hakam says, what does the Hakam say? He wants to explain me this law. Okay, we listen to the Hakam. We also listen to the Rasha. The Rasha has the right to ask questions. And we don't ignore the questions. Okay, he said Asha, maybe it's coming from the wrong point. But the asking questions is never an issue. You're allowed to ask questions, and you should ask questions, and you should use your mind and try to understand. That's the essence of freedom. When you were in Egypt, I'll get to you in a moment, you couldn't ask questions. The Paro said, this is the way it is. We're taking your babies. There is the Nile God. There can be no greater honor than taking your babies and throwing the babies into the river. You should thank us Egyptians that we're giving you this tremendous honor. And if you don't believe that, you're something wrong with your mind. We'll send you to the mental institution, which is what they used to do in Russia, send people to the gulag, not the mental institution. There was a guy, a doctor, I think he was a Hungarian doctor, I forget his name, and he came up with the idea that because they used to deliver moms, they used to deliver babies, moms pregnant, giving birth, they would deliver the babies, and what happened is the doctors, they didn't use some sort of antiseptic, and it was always, the ladies giving birth will always get sick, because they catch an infection. So this guy, this Hungarian doctor, he came up with the idea, and he tried an experiment. How about we wash the hands with like antimicrobial, I think he used alcohol, I don't remember what he used, but he figured out, let's wash the hands of the doctors, and he tried it, and he saw that the infection rate among ladies giving birth went down dramatically. And they ended up sending him to a insane asylum. He died in the insane asylum because they say you're crazy. So over the course of history, there was a particular line that you had to abide by. You have to accept this. It's just the truth. We told you it's the truth, and you must accept the truth. And if you don't accept the truth, there's something wrong with you. So if somebody goes against the truth, what do? You send them to an insane asylum. So in Galileo, he said, maybe the earth is not at the center of the universe. He asked a question, and he proved it. He actually proved it. He was able to show that the earth really isn't at the center of the universe. And he came up with the idea that actually it's not the sun that goes around the earth, but rather it's the earth that orbits the sun. Okay, what do? They send him to the dungeons of the Inquisition. So the Jewish idea of freedom is revolutionary. Even a child can go to his parents and say, what is this Haggadah of Pesah? And maybe the child was at Asha, and you still answer the child. You're still going to tell the child, I want to explain it to you. Listen, you're misconstruing this. Here's what it's about, right? And you tell them the story, and you explain to them what it's about, right? You don't ignore the question. People have a right to think. People have a right to use their minds. People have a right to try to understand things. And that's the essence of freedom. The essence of freedom is the right of a child to ask questions and to try to understand things better. Now, I want to get to you.
I think you answered it in your explanation, but I think it is a two-sided thing. Not only anybody can ask a question, but we have an obligation to address the question. You can't dismiss it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's so, and by the way, like in the, one of the shock, like I used to, read a lot of psychology books, I still do. So like one of the shocking things that I read was the generation before the Nazis in Germany. So there was a psychological study done. These children, these Nazis, they used to be children. So there was a psychological study done on those children. Meaning, so it turns out that the German parents were very, very oppressive of their children, in horrible ways. And from those oppressed children, they were abused horribly. I don't want to get into it. But from those, there is this idea of, I'm the parent, and the child is beneath me, and you oppress the child. And it's very, very common in pagan civilization. It's a very common thing. So, so the extreme was in the days of Germany pre-World War II, and then they became Nazis. They became sick in the head. In contrast to Jewish children, they're very independent. They're very, for better or for worse, but it is for better in the sense that a child who is given the right to use his brain will end up becoming smarter than a child who's like, like, again, it's not allowed to think. But you go to Israel, the kids are like, they're like adults. It's like crazy. Maybe that's a little too extreme, but it's a very Jewish thing. Maybe that's why you have so many Nobel Prize winners who are Jewish. Now think of it, what I just said about the Germans, I did not study anything about the Palestinians. I'm sure they oppress the children in a horrible way, probably similar to what the Germans did. How many Nobel Prize did they win? Did they even win? Yeah, Arafat. He won the Nobel Prize in Peace. That was it. I think he did. You're right. He did. Him and okay, one kind of a funny thing that he won. Right, the guy, like the head terrorist of his generation, he got the Nobel Prize for peace. Anyway, so you see the results. The results are we have all these Nobel Prize winners. Why? Because we're allowed to think. When you're allowed to think, you come up with these brilliant, unbelievable ideas. So that's why the 4 parts of the Seder, each one starts with questions, usually asked by children. Isn't that amazing?
Yep.
It's a great idea.
I like the idea. That's the holiday of freedom. It's all about,
Yeah.
to think and freedom to ask.
Exactly. And we were in Egypt, and they would not let us ask a question. And we felt we had the right to judge and say, no, we don't want to be slaves. No, we don't want to throw our children into the Nile River. We don't care what the Pharaoh tells us. Don't believe your lie. Well, like now, like for example, with the not to get politics, but it's so funny. Like we're talking about Pesach, and now the Democrats are coming clean and they're saying, yeah, we kind of lied to you about Biden. And I'm like you lied to us about Biden? No, you didn't. I mean, and we all saw it. Anybody, you saw the guy Chazid. I felt bad for him. It was embarrassing what happened to him. I'm not I don't take any joy in him, in his flubs or whatever. It really was embarrassing just as a human being. Seeing another human being like that in public made me feel very uncomfortable. But no, there was no cover up. It was there for everybody to see. But when you're told what to think, you don't see what's so obvious. And they're all like, oh wow, I guess he really was not doing well. Really, bravo that you figured it out. I saw this, there was a conference, I think in Congo in Africa, and he was there in the middle of the conference, and the guy's talking to him about, trade with Africa and the US, and he's sleeping. I'm like, hello, what are you not seeing here? Right? And if you would say, oh, the guy's senile, they're like, don't say that, it's haram to speak like that. You get it? So you have this among the goyim, where they tell you don't believe your lying eyes, don't believe your ears, don't use your mind. We'll tell you what's right and what's wrong. Get it?
Right.
All right.
But the kids don't ask questions. You're saying it's based on the children asking questions.
Correct.
Right? Okay, the children get some manishtana like they taught in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And then?
Okay, so first of all, that's great. You're right. I agree with you. I think that as parents, we should try to stimulate the children to think, meaning that it's not easy. Not saying it's easy, but part of our job as parents, for example, on the night of Pesach, I always used to do this, especially when the kids were really young. Now they're a little older. I would have them sit next to me. You know what I'm saying? Usually, usually Shabbat table, it's me, my wife, my parents, my this, and the kids would be on the other side of the table. Pesach, I would have them sit next to me. And try to engage them. Hey, what's going on here? What are we reading? What do you think of, can you imagine? You tell the kid, can you imagine that when we were in Egypt, we were slaves? They would tell us what to do. We were doing the housework and the chores for the goyim, and they were abusing us and beating us. What do you think of that? Try to get the child interested in the story, ask the child questions, so hopefully maybe the child now will kind of ask you questions. But that's part of the challenge. That's exactly the point of the Seder, is to try to get us to wake up our children so that they're aware that there's something happening here. Hanamam says, give them some peanuts, give them some gifts, just do something to kind of pique their interest. Hey, why are you giving me peanuts? We didn't start eating. We're going to ruin my appetite. What happened to ruining my appetite, right? So ruining my appetite. No, give them you're right. We want to ruin your appetite tonight because we want you to think about something. It is what we want you to think about. Got it?
Yep.
All right. So now, I want to read to you, first, let's look at the questions asked by the Chacham. So let's go to page page 106, right? So the Chacham, I just want to show you the psychology of the four children. You have the Chacham. Chacham means an intelligent person. You have the Rasha. Rasha means a person who's wicked. Tam. I don't know why they came up with the idea that Tam is kind of like a simpleton, not that smart, right? I'm not sure where that comes from. Tam really, like Noach was Tam, right? Ish Tamim, right? It wasn't a simpleton. The word Tam, complete, yes, thank you. Like Eov, Ish Tam Be'ashad, he was complete, meaning he had a certain perfection in his personality and his character trait. Right? I have a Haggadah with a picture book, and the Rasha is smoking a cigar, I think something like that. Maybe I like some cards like playing poker and smoking a cigar. The Tom is kind of like this chubby guy who obviously never went to a gym before, whatever. It's like, no, that's not what a Tom is, okay? The She'enu Yodea Lish'ol. She'enu Yodea Lish'ol is kids who are not interested, who are not engaged, who don't ask questions, right? So let's see how to approach each one of these children. Let's start with the Chacham. Chacham HaOmer. So first of all, the Chacham himself, he knows how to ask a question. Now he sees us doing the mitzvah of Masah. He sees us doing the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. So he understands that each one of these mitzvot is a special occasion. So he says as follows: Ma ha'edot ve'achokim ve'hamishpatim asher siva Adonai Elohenu etchem. He asks the following: what are these edot? What does the word edot mean? I mean, each one of these is a synonym for mitzvah. Edot is a mitzvah, chokim is a mitzvah, mishpatim is a mitzvah. What does edot mean?
The real meaning, testimony.
Testimony, yeah, correct. So Maha'edot, he's intelligent. He understands that behind these mitzvot, each one of these mitzvot, is a symbol and a testimony affirming a particular historical event. For example, he understands the maror is a type of ayed. It's an ayed. It's a witness that we were embittered in Egypt. For example, he understands Masah. Masah is an ayed. Masah is an ayed that when we left Egypt, we had to hurry up and we didn't have time to let the bread rise, and we had to eat matzah, and we ran out quickly. That's matzah, so edot. So some mitzvot that we do are a type of testimony. Very intelligent that he understands this. But then what's the next word he says? So he wants to know what the edot are. Tell me what the edot are. I want to know about these mitzvot. I want to participate in making this testimony. But then he says chukim. What's chukim? Anybody know what chukim are?
You don't know the reason.
Commandments.
Yeah, but commandments. Well, what type of commandments?
It's like shatnez.
Shatnez, namely, Raymond, you said it. You don't know the reason.
Why.
Exactly. Yes, correct. So you were both got on it. Exactly. There are certain things. Why is he saying edot and chukim? Because he's saying he's very intelligent. You would say edot. Okay, I want to do it. I got it. It's a testimony. I want to be part of this historical story. So I want to do this edot. Chukim. He realizes there are some mitzvot that I can't understand, and I also want to know those mitzvot. You understand? Meaning, he's not being selective. He's not saying, okay, I get this, I'm going to eat matzah. Then there's a chok. The chok doesn't interest me because I don't understand it. You see, there's a certain conceit among people where if I don't understand it, I won't do it. Well, I mean, so that means that there's no God, or that you're God, because you're saying that you're the highest level of intelligence, and that the intelligence stops with you. So if you don't understand something, exclude it, right? So this chacham, part of being a chacham is realizing there is a higher form of intelligence. I might not understand everything. There might be some mitzvah, shatnez. You said shatnez. Well, really, why can't, if I have linen and wool, haram. Why? Like, why? I have meat and milk. I can't have a cheeseburger. The cheese is kasher. The hamburger is kasher. Put them together, tareh. Why? That doesn't make any sense. And yet he says, I want to know the chukim as well. Why? That's Yirat Adonai Reshit Da'at, the pasuk says. You know what the beginning of the path of a wise person is? The beginning of wisdom. To know there are things you don't understand. You got that? The beginning of wisdom is to start by saying there are things above me. Yirat Adonai Reshit Da'at. If you understand there's a God above, then that's the beginning of the path of knowledge. That's what this Chacham is. He wants to know the Hukim.
So is this a question or more of a statement?
Mahayadot, I want to learn.
But there's no answer. You can't, the Hokim, you just, by definition, you said we can't really understand the answer. So when you're questioning, he's just saying, I'm putting it out there that I want to follow it regardless. In other words, even though I'm not going to get an answer.
I want to learn them from you. I want you to teach me what the Edot are. I want you to teach me what the Hukim are.
Okay, but they
And I want you to teach me what the Mishpatim are.
Fine, but they are.
So it sounds like he's not exhibiting the behaviors that you're saying, right?
Which behaviors?
You're saying that the sign of a wise person is to know there are things that you don't know, and
Yeah.
you're not going to know. But he's saying, I want to know these things.
Right, no. But by calling it Hukim, he's also acknowledging that while you might be able to describe to me what these Hukim are,
Yeah.
I acknowledge I might not understand the reason for them, right? Why do we have shotness? Why do we need korbanot in the modern context today? What? Paraduma. Why paraduma? Exactly. Why person is tameh, but if they sprinkle the paraduma on him, he becomes horrible. Why? Like that doesn't make. Where's the logic? Where's the reasoning? I don't understand it. So it's a chok.
Right.
So a chok means there are things above my knowledge, and he gets it.
So he's saying, teach me these things. Not
Teach
make
it to me,
understand.
even though I know that they're hukim and they're beyond my comprehension. Shlomo Melech says about para aduma in the book of Kohelet. He says, "Amarti echkama v'hi rechoka meni." I was the wisest person ever, Shlomo Melech, right? And as wise and intelligent as I was, the meaning of para aduma was far, far, far away from me. This is what Shlomo Melech says, right? So he says hukim. I want to know hukim. Mishpatim, what is mishpatim?
Judgment.
Judgments, but what does it mean? What does it mean? Laws related to society. In order to have a healthy society, you need certain laws, right? If they didn't have traffic lights, what would be happening?
Accidents.
People would be driving and this and that. They'd be like, even with the traffic lights, by the way. But that's a different story. Why? They'd be like, what?
India.
India, that's why they drive there? I heard also Egypt. They just kind of want to. Yeah, Egypt also. Yeah. Right. So Sigmund Freud, he writes in The Future of an Illusion. That was one of his latter books. The Future of an Illusion. He says that man, by his nature, has certain violent tendencies, and he examines in this book how these violent tendencies. And he was quite an intelligent person. I mean, Sigmund Freud really was he understood human psychology. I don't agree with everything he said, nor do many people agree with everything here. But he had some certain basic fundamental principles. One of them is that the human being is violent, but what tempers the violence is human society. You want to be part of human society, so you understand. I can't just go outside and do whatever I want to do and dress however I want to dress, or act however I want to act, right? So the mishpatim are those rules which keep us in check so that we can live harmoniously together. Again, very intelligent young man. He gets this distinction between Edot, Chukim, and Mishpatim. Fantastic. Okay? So he says, Asher Shiva Adonai Elohenu Etchem. God instructed. Who did God instruct?
Yeah.
What does Etchem mean?
Why Etchem?
What does it mean?
He's including himself in that?
So what does Etchem mean? You tell me. Explain it first. Explain. They might not understand.
You guys.
You guys.
Yeah.
So I say you guys.
Elders?
Okay, so why? Yes, correct. He's referring to his parents because he understands that the Torah is a tradition. There's a long chain of tradition, and he acknowledges, I need you. I need you. If you don't tell me what the tradition is, I can never be a link. I need the previous generation to tell me. I'll give you an example. People say, oh, why do we have the system of, in Hebrew, in Arabic, the Arabic word is talqin. Talqin means I need somebody to give me instruction. Let me give you an example. And people say, oh, this is unique to Judaism. No, it's not. Oh, there's something wrong with Judaism, we need tradition. No. How does anybody know how to read the New York Times? Actually, never mind the New York Times. The New York Post, a better newspaper. It was around since Thomas Jefferson, if I'm not mistaken, right? Oldest newspaper in the country, New York Post. Okay, how does anybody know how to read the New York Post?
You need to be part of that society, you can decode and understand the slang.
What do you have in the New York Post?
Words.
Words. And what are the words made out of?
Letters.
How do you identify the letters? How does a goy identify the letters?
They were taught the alphabet.
Talqin. This goy needed somebody above him to tell him, you see this letter? This is the letter A, and this is the letter B, and this is the letter D, and D makes dad. How do you know that? Is there like some secret code? No. You're either part of the chain of tradition or you're not. So also the goyim need talqin. I'm just mentioning this because sometimes they poke fun of, oh, why do you need the rabbinic tradition? Why do you need the oral law? The answer is any society needs oral law. There's no such thing as a society which doesn't have talqin. Otherwise, everybody would be illiterate. Which unfortunately, yes, you have a lot of that. You have a lot of, after spending trillions of dollars on the Department of Education, you have a lot of illiterates in this country anyway. But not a good thing, right? Not a good thing that people are illiterate. We don't want them to be illiterate. So the only solution is talqin, masoret. And he's intelligent. He says, I need you to teach me. I need the talqin of my parents to tell them what the mitzvot are, what the mitzvot mean, how to do the mitzvot. So again, this is an intelligent child. And
It's a one step further, because I thought that was what your father brought up regarding the nuance of, you have to be within that society, within that community in order to understand the language or the message.
Yes.
When it says circumcised heart, you read it, the guy in Australia, and I'm reading it as a Jew. We're both reading the same words, but you don't understand. We have the tradition of understanding
Yes.
that like you said, the rabbinical tradition of understanding it differently, or
right, when it says umaltem et orlat levavchem, it says you should circumcise your heart. Every Jew understands what this means. Nobody thinks he could do open heart surgery, right? So you have a goy saying, "Oh, the open heart." No, it's maltem. We all understand it's a symbol. It's a symbol that our hearts are heavy, and God is going to cure us from our heaviness, and we're going to have certain beautiful feelings in our heart when the Mashiach comes. But if you look at American society, everybody's very cold. People are very cold. You see it. There's a heaviness. You know, it says that Vasiroti et leva even mikbechem. I'm going to take away the stone heart. People in America, they have stone hearts, right? There's no feelings. You go places sometimes you go to places like in the Mediterranean, people are a little more open. Their hearts are a little more warm. So how's it in France, by the way? More Mediterranean or more American? What? Oh, I don't know. I've never been there. I know, I've seen some people from Italy. They seem to be a little warmer. You know, that's the sense I get. Sure. Yeah, probably. That's the sense I get. But again, I'm not. I'm just making comparisons. That's all. But the point is, umaltem et orlat levavchem. So God sees this, and He's going to cure us from this coldness, right? So we need the talqin to tell us that.
so
Good.
right. So it's not just the translation of it's again.
Right. It's
every
not a
society-
literal
every
translation.
Society has their own, way
Of expressing itself. Again, I said this before. Where do you park a car? In a driveway. Where do you drive a car? In a parkway. Is that logical? Doesn't make any sense. It's incorrect. So I'm going to come and tell you, no, it's incorrect. You drive in a driveway and you park in a parkway. Well, actually, I'm incorrect because there's a talqin, there's a masoret, and this is what those words mean. Don't like it, don't like it. Is it logical? No, it's not logical. It doesn't have to be logical either. It's a hawk. So you have a hawk in American language, right? So we need the Torah Shabbat, but we need the masoret, and that's what he says. So you know what the best thing to do with an intelligent person? They want to know the halachot. Tell him the halachot of Korban Pesach. This is what's going to make him happy. Meaning this kid is at a level where he's interested in learning. He wants to be a link in the chain of tradition. Make him a link. You know the best thing about the best link, the best thing to make somebody a link? Teach him the halachot. How do you put on tefillin? When to say Kriyat Shema? Be definite, right? Be clear, be precise. How do we do Kiddush? All the halachot. Now it's Passover night. What are you going to teach him? Haggadah of Pesah, Korban Pesach. What animal can you use? It has to be a sheep or a goat that's less than 1 year old, male, not female, right? You teach them all the halachot of Korban Pesach. How do you cook it? It has to be whole. You can't put any liquid water. It has to be in dry heat, right? And for example,
You have to cut the head off.
what? I'm sorry?
You have to cut the head off.
Wait, I mean, minus that.
Ah.
Minus that, then you skewer it. After that, you skewer it. So when you take it to the Bet HaMikdash, they do shachita, and then they take the emurim, certain parts that go on the korban. They do zerikat adam first of all, zerikat adam. Then they put the emurim on the mizbeach, and then but that's just the inside, and then the animal is still whole, and you take the whole animal and you kind of skewer it on a barbecue thingy type thing. It has to be dry heat. It can't be like in water or immersed in some sort of liquid. It must be roasted.
Asado.
Right. Is that what it's called?
Spanish, asado.
Asado? Interesting. Okay. So you teach them one of the laws of Korban Pesach, and matirin achar Pesach hapikoman. What does it mean, en matirin achar Pesach hapikoman? I'm going to teach you something very nice. So we say this in the Haggadah, we say en matirin achar Pesach hapikoman, and then we eat the hapikoman before Birkat Hamazon. What does that mean?
Only after.
Okay, but why? What does it mean? I mean, you're right. Correct. Nice. That's great. So first of all, let me explain to you. The Pesach meant the meat of the Korban Pesach. Back then, you had the meat of the Korban Pesach. At the end of the meal, everybody would have a kazait of the meat of the Korban Pesach. Minimum. Yeah, if you like it, you got more. So you have a minimum kazait of the meat of the Korban Pesach. And the halacha is that's the last thing you eat. Why is it the last thing you eat? So always, like, what do you want? Like, you want to have dessert. So, okay, you just had a big meal. You can have maybe something chocolatey for dessert, and then you have a nice chocolatey taste in your mouth. So for us, we want the Korban Pesach to be the last thing we taste that night because it's beautiful. It's kadosh. There's a certain kedusha. They brought the Korban in the Bet HaMikdash. Now you're eating that meat. You feel a certain spirituality, and so therefore nothing else after the Korban Pesach. So now, on the night of Passover, we don't have the Korban Pesach. Right? No Bet HaMikdash, no Korban. So we have the Matzah instead, and then after we eat the Matzah, so it's very important that you know the halakha. So the last thing you're going to be eating before Birkat Hamazon is that matzah. People don't know about halakha, so I'm explaining to you. You want to have dessert. I love dessert. You know, all these kosher Pesach stuff. The best, okay, great. But the last thing we eat, right before Birkat Hamazon, is the matzah. So we have that fikoman right before Birkat Hamazon. Eat it, heseva, leaning to the left. Then we say, Amayim Acharonim Chova. Birkat Hamazon, that's it. I mean, you have the wine, of course. The wine you're going to drink. Yes, sir.
That was my question. If it's all about the taste and that being the last thing to taste, why have the cups of wine afterwards?
Right. It's a symbol. It's a symbol, right? The idea is the last thing. The last thing I eat is the thing I like the most, right? So it's a symbol. It's a symbol to show God how much we love the mitzvah, right? But of course we have to have the wine afterwards, 2 cups of wine, not 1 cup of wine, unless you follow Harambam, and he brings a 5th cup of wine also. But you know, and Harambam brings it as a recommendation, it's not an obligation, okay? Right, so that's the end of the Haggadah of Pesach. Yeah.
Question, so back then, like when they did the original Haggadah, when we still had the Beit HaMikdash,
Yeah.
so they would do a Korban Pesach,
Yes.
and what would Shulchan Aruch be?
Yeah. So it would be exactly like our Shulchan.
Like an actual meal?
Yeah, so the way it would work is that during the daytime, after you would burn the chametz, every single Jew had to be in Jerusalem. Everybody, without exception. So everybody had to be in Jerusalem. And the Nabi Yechezkel describes what's going to happen in Yemot Mashiach, because how does everybody go to Jerusalem? It's like millions and millions and millions of people. Right, so I've had some classes about this and thoughts about how it would work, and I studied the book of Yechezkel. But the idea is that at Pesach, after you burn the chametz, everybody goes to Jerusalem. The family has a place in Jerusalem, wherever they're going to be eating, wherever they're going to be spending the Passover. The father with the son, or with his whoever, one person, let's say 20 people are doing Korban Pesach together, one of them or 2 of them go to the Bet HaMikdash with the goat, with the sheep. They do shachita in the Bet HaMikdash. The Kohanim does do shachita, meaning it's Korban. It's a Korban. So they do it, they do Zerikat Adam. It's actually not Zerikat Adam, it's the Shepichat Adam in the case of Korban Pesach. They shofchim et Adam, they pour the blood, they catch the blood in a golden or silver cup with a handle, right? And then they pour it on the bottom of the Mizbeach. It's called the Yesod. then they take the inside, certain parts of the inside, and they burn it on the Mizbeach. And now the animal is whole, and they bring the animal back home. It has to be eaten within the walls of Jerusalem. So obviously the walls of Jerusalem is going to be huge. You can't eat the meat of the Korban Pesach in Tel Aviv or in Ra'anana or wherever. It must be eaten because it's kadosh, it's holy. So that night, every single Jew is in Jerusalem. Otherwise, it's an unbelievable thing. All the Jewish people are in Jerusalem, eating Korban Pesach. Okay? And so you bring the Korban Pesach, you roast it, and then you put it on the Seder table with the Masa, with the Maror, with the Haroset. Right? So it's in the middle of the Seder table is going to be the Korban Pesach. And then they do the Haggadah, and during the course of the Haggadah, they eat the Korban Pesach. Answer your question?
Yep, thanks.
Okay. Gentlemen, I think we should stop here. Good place, 9:20? Yeah? Okay. All right. So.